by the Congressman. I don't know if that works. If it doesn't, you can use this, I assume. Or can you try?
Well, I wanted to
Are you going to tell us who will win the primary and the election or not? No, you're saying something else.
ditto to everything that Chris Van Hollen just said. And by the way, I want to thank Senator Van Hollen for being such an incredible ally for the Greek American and Cypriot American communities and for this strong relationship between Greece, Cyprus, and the United States. And I want to thank, yes, let's give him a hand. In particular, I want to thank him for recently leading the effort on the Senate side to impose these sanctions on Turkey for what they did. As he indicated, we have strong bipartisan support for that across the Capitol. We got it done on the House side. Mitch McConnell is the problem on the Senate side, and I could say that with respect to a whole litany of pieces of legislation, including that one. So thank you to Senator Van Hollen for his advocacy. I did want to come by and briefly address the group and thank you for gathering on this very, very important subject. I want to salute Kathimerini and the Delphi Economic Forum for pulling this together. I want to thank my friend Andy Zemanides and the Hellenic American Leadership Council for the work that they do every day. I know there's many, many organizations represented in the room. We have a lot of the ambassadorial corps represented here as well, current and former, and I know you're about to hear from Nicholas Burns, who is an expert on every topic that you've addressed today and will address tomorrow, so that will be a very powerful panel. I also want to salute, I think you've heard already today from my colleagues in the House, Congressman Deutsch and Bill Arakis, and I believe David Cicilline is coming a little bit later. We're very blessed to have their leadership in the House on every issue that is near and dear to the heart of the Greek American and Cypriot American communities. And I've been privileged to work very closely with them over the last few years as we kind of position these issues in a way that gets, I think, new attention and new support across the Congress. Certainly I can say that's the case in the House of Representatives. I was thinking before I got here about how our community, and now when I say our, I'm speaking as a Greek American legislator, very proud of that heritage and that connection. But when we gather to talk in these sorts of forums, as we do on a regular basis, and it's important that we do so, we present our case for Greece and Cyprus for this strong relationship in a number of different ways. We oftentimes present our grievances, legitimate grievances that we have. When you look at, for example, Turkey's occupation of Cyprus, a long-standing grievance on the part of Cyprus, obviously, Greece, and I believe the United States, and we try to assemble what we can in terms of advocacy to push on Turkey to redress and to solve that grievance. That's an example. Or as the senator just alluded to, these incursions into the exclusive economic zone that we see on the part of Turkey on a regular basis. That's an example where we point out these grievances. So that's one category of things that we bring forward in these settings. A second is cautions. And for years, it has been this community that has raised cautions about the conduct of bad actors in that part of the world, in the Eastern Mediterranean, in Southeastern Europe, and so forth, primarily Turkey. But we've been raising the alarm repeatedly about this. And I would argue in a way that's kind of the canary in the coal mine kind of a warning. Now, finally, the broad foreign policy establishment and members of Congress who previously really couldn't assemble enough focus, I think, to digest the kind of warnings and cautions that we were offering up. Now they're doing that. And in large measure, we have President Erdogan to thank for this, because he has betrayed nakedly what motivates him. Certainly recently, but you know, over the last couple of years, the conduct of his security detail here in the nation's capital was breathtaking in its arrogance and its contempt for who we are as a country here. And now with this latest assault into northern Syria, for all the world to see, including members of the United States Congress, I think we no longer have to work as hard on sort of the caution and warning part of the narrative that we bring in these settings. The third thing we bring, and we've always brought, but I now think we have a brand new opportunity to lift this up, is the opportunities that are presented, that what Greece, what Cyprus can offer to the Eastern Mediterranean when it comes to energy partnerships, security, defense. This is the narrative, I think, that's taking hold in a very exciting way. And I think that's at the center of what the discussion has been here today and will be here tomorrow. If you look, for example, at this Eastern Mediterranean Energy and Security Partnership Act that was introduced on the House side by those members whose names I just cited, as well as Senator Menendez and Senators Rubio on the Senate side. This is an opportunity to really begin to fashion partnership at a higher level. And I want to congratulate all the members who stood up behind that, but also a lot of the organizations in this room that worked together to make sure that we assembled all of these priorities that have been part of our community's discussion for years into one overarching package, and then think strategically about how we deploy the elements of that package when we get the opportunity to do so. So I think it's just to close, I think it's a very exciting moment because this positive narrative of what Greece, Cyprus has to offer to the United States, to the world, strategically, in terms of economic opportunity, it's getting new attention. And it's these kinds of conferences that I think are bringing it to the fore. And I wanted to close just with a couple of observations. We often in our community think of the words philotimo and axios to describe person-to-person relationships. We talk about personal philotimo, when you deal with someone else in an honorable way, when your word is your bond. We talk about individuals exhibiting attributes and characteristics that make them axios, that make them worthy. But I think we can also apply those words to nations. And I think if you look at how Greece and Cyprus have handled themselves over the years and have tried to build this partnership and this alliance with the United States, it's an example of, in a sense, nation-state philotimo, for reaching for that axios standing, because it's based on common values, shared values. And that's something we can be extremely proud of, and I think it's the reason going forward that Greece and Cyprus are going to anchor some of the most exciting partnerships and alliances and opportunities in that part of the world that we have seen for decades. And it's people like the people in this room that I think are going to lead the way on that. So I want to thank you for being here, taking the time to focus on these very important issues. And I also want to thank the participants, because I looked at the roster of those who are presenting, and it's really an A-list of folks that have been connected to these issues for many, many years and are in a position to lift the partnership I'm describing up to even higher levels. So thank you. Kalos ήρθατε to all the people that have come from afar. It was good to be with you today.